Hi, welcome to my video today. Today we're going to discuss and talk about changing the starter motor on a Audi RS4. This is a 4.2 V8 UK spec model. Now the starter motor sits on the engine, obviously, just up in here. So it's on the front right hand side of the vehicle. Like I said, this is a UK spec. Here's the offending item. So you can see there's the part number 079911023. It's a D7G6. The important thing is, I think it's the power rating of this. I think they're about 1.7, something like that. This vehicle was just clicking away, so obviously the solenoid had gone, or something was wrong with the solenoid. It's a new battery on the car, so it was playing up. So we've had to change it. So that's the old item. Quite expensive, around about 100 UK pounds for a decent reconditioned one. I actually got one off eBay, reconditioned Audi unit. Now this thing that I'm just showing you here is the first lower part of the engine mount. What you've basically got to do to get access to the starter motor is take the engine mount off. So apart from the obvious disconnecting the battery first, because obviously you're going to be playing with some big terminals and you're near the alternator as well, you need to take off the bottom tray of the engine and all that sort of stuff. You can see the jack here because I've got the jack underneath the block. So, excuse my videoing techniques, but here we go. So we're underneath the front side of the vehicle, the front right hand side of the vehicle. There's the tyre for reference. So we're just forward of it. And in here, it's a terrible job, I must admit, and I'm not sure I'd like to do another one. But there you go. It's almost as bad as doing a turbo on a 2-litre diesel Volkswagen, but if you've ever done one of them, this is probably just as bad, if not worse. Okay, so like I said, perspective wise, there's the wheel. So we're forward of the wheel here, and we're up in this area here. So here's the engine mount itself. So this is the engine mount, and that other piece that I showed you kind of sits in like here, up here somewhere, and we have to take it off. There's the anti-roll bar. So the first thing you need to do is get this lower engine mount out. So we're going to get that mount out first. That's held in with 3 bolts. They're stretch bolts, so you'll need to replace them if you're going to put it back in. And this mount sits in here, and then obviously attaches via a couple of nuts to this engine mount itself. It's one of these monitored ones with a switch on it. So I guess if they're breaking down or failing or collapsing, then obviously we can get it. So that's the first part of the engine mount that needs to come out. So before you take that out, obviously you need to support the weight of the engine on a jack. If you start to jack it up when the car starts to raise, well, then you're too high, you're too much on the jack. So first thing is you need to take the tray off, obviously, like I said. Then what we need to do is get the anti-roll bar disconnected. So you need to take the clamp off on the far side and this side, and that just gives us the movement of the anti-roll bar to help us get it out of the way, because this is a pig of a job. So then we take this mount off, the one I just showed you, 3 bolts. That's fairly easy to get hold of. There's a couple of clamps and things and whatnot's just holding all these pipes and gubbins around it. Fairly straightforward. And then the next thing is really to take the actual mount off itself. Now this part of the mount actually sits on like a 3-legged assembly. So this is the casting here, and you can just see this is the sort of casting leg here, there where my finger is there, this bit here. I'll try and move this light slightly. You can just about see the first Allen key bolt. This is what I just want to show you there, right in the centre. So what we have here is there's an Allen key just there. I can see my finger, but it's held in with Allen keys. I mean, I don't know what Audi were thinking when they did this, because it's an absolute bugger to get out. But there's one here, and the second one, which is the worst, is up here, just there. You can see that. Now I had real problems getting these out, mainly because this car has an aftermarket exhaust. I don't know if it'll be the same on all RS4s or all these 4.2 engines, but what you can see is the bolt will not come out because it bangs against the downpipe. So in order to kind of do that, you've got to undo the other 3 legs, the Allen key that's down here, the bolt, sorry, the Allen key bolt that's down there, and the last one is up here, which you'll see it. But it's kind of, this is the alternator here, so this is the alternator, and it's buried right up here. I can't even see it here, you know, I can't even really show you it, but it's buried right up, sort of, kind of up here. And, you know, it's an extension job and all the rest of it, you know, a couple of wobblies and all that sort of stuff. This isn't something that really an amateur home mechanic would probably, you can do it, obviously, but it's a difficult job. For that one, this end there, I basically just used one of these Allen keys that has a wobbly end on it, you know, the loose wobbly ends, but just really difficult, you know, difficult and problematic, and just struggling, you know, like for mad. You know, this thing probably took me an hour and a half to get out, and probably hour and a half to put back in, you know, and I'm a pretty competent mechanic, so but yeah, once we got all that out, we then can see the starter motor. This is the new one that's in here. So the starter motor sits up there. This is the cable in that goes to it. This is the earth, obviously. So I mean, one of the things you might want to just do is check that the earth stud up here is not loose and you've got problems there. That's the earth stud. The starter motor is pretty straightforward. It's got two main attachment bolts. The one on the bottom is a loose nut and bolt, and you can kind of get to it. This is the sort of lower engine cradle assembly. So if you get a spanner from the far side and a ratchet from this side, you can get it off. Fairly straightforward. It's just a pig of access. The top bolt on the starter motor is threaded, so it's just a bolt. You don't have to put a spanner on the nut on the far end. Then it's just obviously the 2 connections. It has its own dedicated earth lead, and then obviously the positive and the 12 volt plug for the solenoid. So you need to make sure that you disconnect the battery, like I said, first thing before you start mucking around with that. You won't be sticking a spanner up there and, you know, shorting it out, upsetting yourself. Yeah, so that's it really. So reassembly is putting the starter motor back in, obviously, then putting this 3-legged engine mount back in. Alright, bugger, pain of a job. Then putting that big casting over the top here, which I'm just about to put back on, but I did this video before. And then all these sort of brackets and things can go back on, and all the rest of it. If you have got one of these, I'll show you a couple of other bits and pieces that are quite common on them. This is at the front. This is the oil cooler pipe. So this is very typical. You can see there that these pipes, they come from the block. So this is the bottom of the sump. So here they are, the cooler pipes. They go through this bracket here, and can you see how the rubber grommet has come out? So that's not very good. That's supposed to be up in there to stop these chafing, so I'll have to put that back in properly. But then they corrode on these ends. So you can see this is dripping oil. So that's very common on these Audis. I've had a few Audis now over the time, Audi TT and whatnot, and a few other bits and pieces. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think they wear very well. They seem to corrode underneath all of them that I've had. They rot. You know, they just seem to, I don't know, cheap material, I guess. But this is rather concerning. This car's only just done 98,000 miles, and it's been well looked after. It's got full service history. You know, it's not a dog of an example, but we'll just have a look at that there. This is the sump, the corner of the sump. I mean, that is going to not last another million years. It's already corroding. Avoiding picking anything off that. So yeah, so they do stuff for them. Also here, again for perspective, this is the wheel, so I'm forward of it. This is the front right, behind the sort of front right corner of the bumper. They have an auxiliary radiator, one here and one on the far side, and they are quite common for leaks. And this vehicle's had the same, dripping water on the tray. So I think we've got some sort of water leak problem over there as well. So need to look at that. Okay, so anyway, hope this has helped. It's a bit long video, but there you go. Watch it and do it at your peril. or pair garage, 300-400 quid, which might be the best option. Alright, cheers, thanks, hope you help.